On the news, a Akwa YPP governorship candidate sentenced to 42 years imprisonment for fraud. Court remands student for tweet against Aisha Buhari as Nance calls for nationwide protest. President Muhammadu Buhari accuses governors of misappropriating local government allocation. It's a pleasure to have you join us on News Now. I am Simisola Adigun. A federal high court in Akwa Ibom has sentenced the governorship candidate of the Young Progressives Party, Basi Albert, to 42 years in prison for fraud. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had in 2019 arraigned Albert on a 6-count charge of allegedly taking possession of 6 vehicles worth 204 million naira when he was finance commissioner in the state. He was said to have collected one of the vehicles from Jide Omokore, an associate of the former Minister of Petroleum, Diezani Alison Madreke. Delivering judgment on Thursday, the presiding judge, Agatha Okeke, found the senator guilty of the offences. Consequently, he was sentenced to Ikotekwene prison to serve his jail term. Albert, a serving senator representing Akwa Ibom Northeast District, was a member of the People's Democratic Party. He, however, defected to the YPP in July, where he secured the party's ticket for the 2023 governorship election. Still in legal matters, Justice Halilu Yusuf of the Federal Capital Territory High Court has remanded Aminu Adamu, a student of the Federal University Dotse Jigawa at the Suleja Correctional Center in Niger State after tweeting about the wife of the president, Aisha Buhari. The student was arraigned for cyber stalking and was denied bail despite pleading not guilty to the charges filed against him. Adamu, a 500-level student who was allegedly arrested by security officials on the orders of Aisha Buhari a few days ago, had in June tweeted in Hausa that the president's wife was feeding fat on poor people's money. Justice Halilu ordered the defendant to be remanded in Suleja prison pending the hearing and determination of his bail application. Meanwhile, the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, has condemned the detention of Adamu over the alleged defamatory post made against the wife of the president. NANS President Usman Barambu, in a statement on Thursday, demanded the unconditional release of the student of the Federal University Dutse and announced a nationwide protest for Monday, December 5, 2022, to press home the demand of the student's body. To give more insight into this development, Tunde Kolawole, legal expert, joins me now. Thank you for joining me, Tunde. Now, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this case, but as a legal expert, can you tell us what is peculiar and what you may have found out about Aminu Adamu's case? Oh, I'm afraid we've lost our guest there, but moving on, President Muhammadu Buhari has said governors steal from local government council allocations. The president, who spoke extempore after delivering his speech at the Presidential Parley for members of the Senior Executive Course 44 for 2022 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies at the State House, underscored that personal integrity is fundamental in the operations of government. President Buhari recalled an instance of how a state governor would receive allocation on behalf of council areas in his state, only to remit half of such allocation to the council chairman. These actions, he said, portrayed the sort of corrupt practices that are now symptomatic of Nigeria in dispensing resources meant for local council administrations, thereby undermining development.
The treatment of local governments. What they did, this is my personal experience. If the monies from the federal government to state government, say it's 100 million, let's put it 100 million. 50 million will be sent to the chairman with a letter that he will sign that he received 100 million. The governor will pocket the balance and share it with whoever he wanted. And then the chairman of the local government will see how much he must pay in salaries to help goes to development. Money for the salaries will be given and the balance will put in his pocket. This was happening. This is Nigeria. It's a terrible thing. You cannot say the person who was doing that was not educated. He was a qualified lawyer. He was experienced. Yet he participated in this type of corruption.
We go back now to the story of the student that was arrested on the orders of the wife of the president. Tunde Kolawole is back now. Thank you, Tunde, for joining me on the news. Like I asked earlier, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this case. But as a legal expert, can you tell us what is peculiar and what you may have found out about Aminu Adamu's case?
You were asking about procedures. Hello, I'm hearing.
Yes, I'm listening. I'm listening, sir. You can go on.
Well, in my humble opinion or my understanding of the law, there are three basic issues that are involved in this. One is criminal defamation. The other one, which is could be described as cyber stalking or cyber crime. And of course, too, you have civil defamation. And lastly, you may want to look at the issues from the moral perspective. Starting from the moral perspective, when the person has stepped into public office, are they not liable to criticism by the citizens, those who elected and put them in power? And if leaders or people in public offices have to start reacting to whatever the citizens say or those who put them in power say, would they even have time to devote to the work for which they have been elected? The second one is an African tradition. Is a child about the age of 2023 that boy is set to be. Is it appropriate for him as a person to enforce the passing of the wife of Mr. President? That is Madam Madam Buhari. Morally, that may not be correct. Secondly, two wrongs don't make a right. The fact that Mrs. Buhari is in public office, she should know that she's liable to be criticized by the citizens. We and I have seen not too long ago when the president of France was campaigning and citizens slapped the president. The president merely made a joke out of that effort. He described it as another dirty slap. If the president of France were to react the way Madam Buhari is reacting today, you and I would know that the French citizens will not condone that kind of behavior. Further, under criminal defamation, if the wife of the president feels terribly aggrieved about what that boy has said, what she required to do is to do a petition to the Commissioner of Police, alleging that she has been criminally detained, that somebody has said she's eating public or taking public office to fasten herself. And then the Commissioner, the IG of Police or the Commissioner of Police will look at the law and then file appropriate criminal defamation charges against the boss in the court of competent jurisdiction. The alternative way would have been for Madam Buhari to take a civil suit in the court of competent jurisdiction to challenge or defend our reputation as a citizens of Nigeria and ask for damages that may have been heaped on us.
All right. Tunde Kolawole, legal expert, thank you very much for your time and contribution. Moving on, the National Security Advisor Babagana Mongono has declared that security challenges in Nigeria have been significantly degraded. Speaking at the 60th session of the weekly ministerial briefing at the Presidential Villa, Abuja on Thursday, the NSA said this has made possible with renewed collaboration with all security agencies and international security agencies. While responding to questions on the 2023 general elections, Mongono revealed that President Muhammadu Buhari has directed INEC and security operators to ensure free, fair and peaceful polls.
The harder we try to solve the problem of insecurity, the more aggressive it becomes at the local level, because these elements keep popping out of local, government levels. Before they reach areas that they are not supposed to reach, they must have, manifested in many ways at the local level. It is extremely important. I know there are some arms of government that are also working to see how the local government can be strengthened. Obviously, there will be vested interests, there will be resistance, but the only way in which we can secure this country outside the traditional methods that have been used is to strengthen the local government. The president has given clear directives. The people's will must prevail. What happened in Anambra, Osun, and Ekiti is what we want to happen all over the country. Let the people choose their leader, whoever they want, then later they can decide. Because if you are really who you are, you don't need to hire thugs. If you cannot restrain your thugs, the government will do that for you. And you'll be called on the carpet and you'll answer questions. We have a lot of politicians, and I'm not being specific about any politician or party. This virus has to be contained.
To state matters now, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, says the success of his first term has propelled his confidence to seek re-election for a second term. Sanwo-Olu made this known on Wednesday at the formal launch of his re-election campaign in Ikeja, the state capital. The governor, who was represented by the State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Gbenga Omotosho, said he is determined to make the state a 21st century success story. Our correspondent, Abisola Adebayo, now reports.
As Nigerians approach the 2023 general elections, various candidates and political parties have begun to roll out plans and strategies for their campaigns ahead of the polls. Kicking off his campaign launch with a display of achievements recorded since his assumption of office in 2019, some elder statesmen took turns to highlight what the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has done to improve infrastructures and boost the standard of living for Lagosians.
This government has been very inclusive, all-inclusive, in terms of touching every nooks, corners, and crannies of our state. And in terms of touching every sector, every important sector of the life of Lagosians. And it's also important to note that characteristic of the promise of Mr. Governor has ensured that no project has been abandoned. All projects I inherited from his predecessors have been completed.
When we make an announcement that we are putting a film city, right, and you hear our leaders in the entertainment industry shout for joy, then you know that today that scripture is fulfilled, that when the righteous is in authority, that the people shout for joy.
Speaking on the campaign tagged A Greater Lagos Rising, the Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Gbenga Omotosho, says the campaign is designed to communicate to residents how their tax is being managed, adding that it is also a reflection on what to expect if Sanwo-Olu is elected in 2023.
The campaign is not about Mr. Sanwo-Olu. It is a tribute to all our young people who are putting Lagos on the global map. This campaign is a celebration of the collective progress we have all made in the last 3.5 years against all odds. It is also a vivid reflection of what to expect in the coming days. Mr. Sanwo-Olu started on August 15 last year the red line that will run from Oyigbo to Agbado. Passenger operation will begin first quarter of next year by the grace of God. The blue line will also start commercial services then. We are building a new Mercy Street Hospital, which is going to be the biggest pediatric center in Africa.
The incident of the COVID-19 pandemic and its setback was also recalled, as the governor's approach in tackling these challenges was described as a rare display of bravery and courage.
Following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in China in January 2020, Lagos recorded the first index case of the dreaded virus on 27th of February 2020. Governor Sanwo-Olu, in a rare display of bravery and courage in leadership, assumed the role of incident commander. With Dr. Kadi Obafemi Amsad as deputy, he rallied the best brains of Nigerian health sector to confront the dangers of the pandemic posed to millions of Lagosians. In no time, Lagos indeed became a global example for the medical world on how to fight the pandemic.
Although the governor was absent at this event, he was duly represented as organizers of the campaign seeking Governor Sanwo-Olu's re-election touted him as the best man for the job. Abisola Adebayo, TV360, Lagos.
The federal government has blamed state governors for the high rate of poverty in the country, adding that 72% of Nigeria's poor citizens are found in the rural areas which have been abandoned by the governors. Minister of State for Budget and National Planning Clement Agba said this while briefing State House correspondents on the outcome of the Federal Executive Council meeting. He therefore urged the governors to focus more on improving living conditions in rural areas. For more details in this next report. According to a recent report by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, no fewer than 133 million Nigerians, representing 63% of the population, are currently living in multi-dimensional poverty. This worrisome situation took the front burner in this week's Federal Executive Council meeting. Reviewing the report, the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Clement Agba, said the 36 governors of the Federation were to blame for not getting their priorities right in their respective states.
We need to push that rather than governors continue to compete to take loans to build airports that are not necessary, where they have other airports so close to them, or governors now competing to build flyovers all over the place, and we applaud them. They should concentrate on building rural roads so that the farmer can at least get their product to the market.
Educational matters also made the to-do list of the council. After several deliberations, the council approved a new national language policy, making the various mother tongues compulsory medium of instruction from primary 1 to 6. This, they say, will prevent Nigeria's local languages from extinction.
There are 625 languages in Nigeria. If we had the material, let's say instructional material and teachers, this will be used to teach, the community will teach children in its own language. It's not restricted to the 3 languages that were promoted, Hausa, Igbo, English, and Yoruba. Mother tongue is mother tongue. So when the policy is fully operational, each locality will teach students in primary 1 up to 6 in their own mother tongue.
On his part, the Minister of Science and Technology explained that the Council approved the concession of research and development of satellite internet broadband project to ensure fast, reliable and uninterrupted internet penetration across the country.
We have the ICRC, which is the agency that is responsible for the assessment and, of course, starting from the outline business case and then you move on to the full business case. And after going to, of course, also seeking the necessary clearance that we need, even from the security, National Security Advisor and other agencies that we need to get their buy-in before going to town.
President Muhammadu Buhari also signed into law the National Agricultural Development Fund Bill, which is expected to be funded by derivation from 0.5% of Natural Development Resources Fund and 5% of the duty levied on import of rice, wheat, sugar, milk, poultry, and fish. Simisola Adigun, TV360, Lagos. We'll take a break here, but still to come. Federal government accuses marketers of hoarding, says no plan to hike petrol price. Details of the story and more right after this break. Welcome back. Now here's a recap of our top stories tonight. A federal high court in Akwa Ibom State has sentenced the governorship candidate of the Young Progressive Party, Basi Albert, to 42 years in prison for fraud. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had in 2019 arraigned Albert on a 6-count charge of allegedly taking possession of 6 vehicles worth 204 million naira when he was finance commissioner in the state. Consequently, he was sentenced to Ikotepene prison to serve his jail term. We also told you that Justice Halilu Yusuf of the Federal Capital Territory High Court has remanded Aminu Adamu, a student of the Federal University Dutse Jigawa at the Suleja Correctional Center in Niger State, after tweeting about the wife of the president, Aisha Buhari. Adamu, a 500-level student who was allegedly arrested by security officials on the orders of Aisha Buhari a few days ago, had in June tweeted in Hausa that the president's wife was feeding fat on poor people's money. Meanwhile, President of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, Usman Barambu, in a statement on Thursday, demanded Adamu's unconditional release and announced a nationwide protest for Monday, December 5, 2022, to press home the demand of the students' body. In case you missed any of our news bulletins or for more updates, do log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. In COVID updates, China has signaled a shift in its COVID stance as it moves to ease some virus restrictions despite high daily case numbers. Restrictions in major cities like Guangzhou were abruptly lifted on Wednesday, hours after the city saw violent protests that resulted in clashes between police and protesters. It comes as China is seeing mass protests against its zero COVID policy. We'll take another short break here and be back with more stories. Do stay with us.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the president of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places, the Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. Abisola Adebayo now joins us with business updates. Abisola, what's the latest?
Thank you very much, Timisola. Welcome to Business News. The federal government has denied that it plans to hike the pump price of petrol, despite the increase in price from 180 naira per litre to 235 by independent marketers. The government, in a statement by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, insisted that the country had 34 days of sufficiency in stock, despite visible evidence of shortage across the country. Marketers and the general public were also advised to avoid panic buying, diversion of product, as well as hoarding. Well, we'll take a break now and return with a review of the stock market. After a record positive close in November, Nigeria's equities market opened the month of December on a negative note, decreasing slightly by 0.01% as the All-Share Index closed by 47,656 basis points. Investors also lost about 2 billion naira on Thursday as the market capitalization decreased to 25.95 trillion naira. Honeywell Flour Mill share price dropped the most today, down by 18 kobo, and was closely followed by RT Briscoe. On the flip side, as our top gainers for today, UPD Credit and McNichols led the gainers table as they recorded a combined 30 kobo increase. Our market summary, however, sees 172 million units of shares valued at 2.8 billion naira exchanging hands in 3,073 deals. Apparently, yesterday's gain on the NGX was a dead cat bounce, but we're still optimistic that the market might end positive tomorrow and even for the rest of the last month of the year. Moving on to the foreign scene, the FTSE, the Dow Jones and the Nikkei. London's blue chip shares edged towards 6-month highs on Thursday after a strong performance in November on signs that the U.S. Federal Reserve would temper its pace of interest rate hikes. Wall Street equities, however, fell as investors digested economic data after a big rally in the previous session from signals that the U.S. Federal Reserve would slow its interest rate hiking pace. Meanwhile, Japan stocks Nikkei is also in the positive as we recorded a 0.92% increase. That's all on stock market reports. Back to you, Simi, for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Abisola. Now on the foreign scene, a security guard at Ukraine's embassy in Madrid has been injured while opening a letter bomb addressed to the Ukrainian ambassador, prompting Kyiv to boost security at its embassies. The central government representative in Madrid, Mercedes Gonzalez, said the letter, which arrived by regular post, exploded in the early afternoon as the guard opened it in the embassy garden. Meanwhile, police have opened an investigation which includes the participation of forensic police. In sports, FIFA's head of refereeing says the addition of more time at the end of World Cup games to compensate for stoppages has raised the average active playing time to 59 minutes. Colina, who said FIFA was quite happy with the result of games routinely extending from the 90 minutes of regulation to more than 100 in total, added that the ball now actively in play for 55 to 67 minutes has extended entertainment for football fans.
Substitutions, this is something to be considered. In the past, one sub 30 seconds, this was the directive. With the 10 substitutions and the multiple substitutions within one slot, we cannot simply say three subs in one slot means 1.5, because probably it's less than 1.5, but more than 30 seconds, so they have to accurately calculate. Goal celebrations, it's a moment of joy for those who scored, but it takes quite long to celebrate a goal, and for the opponents it's less opportunity to play. So also the goal, the time spent for a celebration of a goal should be considered, and then of course the VAR intervention, both when there is a delay in the restart of play due to a check made by the video match officials, and for the on-field review when the referee goes to the monitor to review any incident. Of course it takes time, and this time has to be compensated.
Well, with that we end our news bulletin this evening. Many thanks for watching. I am Simisola Adigun. Bye for now.